Hello, fellow seekers and self-explorers. And today I'd like to add fellow creators. Yes, this is what we're going to be talking about today, about those beautiful stories that we create. Yay! As beautiful creators. So really, when you think of it, we are creators. And how does that start really? How does a creation start? Well, it does start with a thought, an idea. If you think of it, you have this idea of creating a building. Well, you think it, and then you're able to make the plan and take action and do what you need to actually create that building. But it did start with a single thought. So it's as simple as that. This is where creation starts, with a thought. So, with that in mind, imagine how powerful we are with the thought that we put out there, with the stories that we create. So, this is very key to understand the power of our own creation and being mindful of the stories that we create. So I'd like to share, and I'd like to do that to bring some really concrete and simple examples into the picture. Very simple, something that happened to me again this week that was very insightful as far as those stories go, those beautiful stories that we create all the time. And it was with my beautiful husband. This is the blessing when you live with someone, is that you have this constant inner work that you can do. And yeah, I was cleaning the house and I was getting a little frustrated. I was tired, and it was tired taking a nap, and I started to feel mad and frustrated because I wish he could help and this and that, all that story, right? And I started to observe myself and all the stories that I'm visual, so sometimes I have images come in, and I was seeing those stories in little bubbles, and I was observing all those little stories that I was created, and that I created, and I was creating again. So there was this old story of like, well, he's working a lot, I'm working from home, so I have more time, and it's normal. Right. So that was one story. And then I was saying another story. Well, that's kind of the role of the woman to do this, and this needs to change it. Why is it like this? It doesn't have to be like this. That was another story, right? And many stories were coming like this. Like, well, my mom did everything on her own, so that's normal that I replicate and continue to do this. That was another story. So as all those stories were running through me, I became mindful of them and what I was creating in my mind. And then came the very interesting piece. Okay, which story do I choose to believe in? Which story am I ready to release and let go? And through all that frustration, and it lasted quite a bit, because I had all those stories made me feel a little frustrated, and were kind of feeding some uncomfortable emotion and feeding some either anger or frustration or things like this. And I realized that I was creating this by creating all those beautiful stories. And what happened after, it took me a few hours, I even want to say almost a day. I tend to keep everything in and process everything, right? So that's what I did for that day. I sat with all those stories, and there is another one that I started to create. And it was, wow, actually, it is amazing because I have an amazing husband. I can just ask him what my needs are, and it will do whatever it can to fulfill those needs. And I'm one who really struggles to express my needs, identify them, and then express them. That might actually be a theme for another video. But yeah, so I sat with this like, whoa, this is actually just an opportunity for me to actually just express my needs on the moment, right there. If I need help with something, how about just asking for it? That's it. And this is where I made another video about receiving everything as a gift. So this is where am I going with this? This was the gift of that situation where I was feeling frustrated. And then I could choose to feed any of those stories, but they were not making me feel good. And they either kept me in old beliefs or kept me in the victim consciousness. And I was seeing all of this, like, oh, I have the power actually to change that. And I chose to embrace that other story and feeding into that story that was, this is actually a gift to teach me to express my needs. Amazing. So that did become a gift. So I'm sharing this with you because it doesn't mean that that story is better than the others. I believe there is room for everything and all the stories serve us, right? They, as I was explaining, they either reinforce beliefs and we need them for some reason, and they become our truth. But just by being mindful when we know, and if you've watched my videos, you know I'm all about self-awareness, and this is where the change can really happen. When you become self-aware of what you create and the stories that you nourish and the stories that you choose to believe in, when you become aware of that, you become responsible to create your own reality. And there is this sentence that I love, is the only thing further from the truth is another truth. So that's another very key point here, is also when you know, all the stories that you hear, you know, now on TV, the social media and everywhere, there are so many truths out there. There are so many stories. And that's a beautiful thing because we get to pick the ones that we want to believe in, the one that resonate with us. And that's awesome. And again, it's not about some stories are better than the others, but being mindful of which story am I welcoming into my life and which story do I choose to believe in? It doesn't mean that it's the truth. Yes, it's my truth right here, right now. But instead of, you know, having your truth and either sticking with it forever or trying to convince others that it is the truth, right? Things that I've done so many times and I still do at times, right? Maybe open a little bit, expand a little bit, and remember that the only thing further from the truth is another truth. No matter what you choose to believe in, no matter what stories you choose to believe in or you create, are your truth, and it's okay. This video is just an invitation to be mindful of your own stories, of the stories that you create, of the stories that you choose to believe in, and see how they make you feel. Do they feed something, an old belief? And that's often what we do unconsciously. You know, I often see those conspiracy theory stories, and I think it's fascinating. And it is one truth. It is a truth. It is another truth. That's all it is. It is another truth. And then reflect on those stories, how they make you feel. Do they feed old beliefs? Do they make you feel nervous, scared, worried? Do they make you feel joy, expansion in your heart? Do they make you open your heart? Or on the contrary, do they make you kind of contract and feel that you need to protect yourself, or that the world is a dangerous place to live in? Right? So this is this mindfulness piece that I really, really wanted to share with you guys, because we are so powerful. We are creators, and we are each responsible in creating our own reality, in creating our own stories. And by doing that from the inside out, we are creating the world. We are creating the future. So I believe it's our responsibility to be aware and mindful of the stories that we create and we choose to nourish and bring out into the world. The last piece I wanted to share with you was because I actually did this morning. To say, I sat with myself, so maybe we can do that here for a second. And imagine a world where everyone believes and feeds into that story that the world is going into chaos and it's going to be very scary and a lot of things are going to be happening and there are wars and we need to be careful and we need to be really standing our ground because chaos is upon us. And yeah, already my heart is beating so fast and I'm getting emotional and I'm getting a little scared, right? I don't know if you can feel that too. And we hear so many of those stories. I am not saying those stories are wrong. Those stories are one truth. They are another truth. And those truths are what are going to create our future. This is what creates the world we live in. So now imagine a world where everyone believes that what's happening right here, right now in planet Earth is actually beautiful. There is a huge shift in consciousness. Something huge is happening, and we all chose to be here, right now, at this time, to be a part of this. And the best is yet to come. How does that make you feel? So again, one truth is not better than the other. There are so many truths out there. So many truths out there. You are responsible to feel what it brings up for you and raise those vibrations up. We can choose to feel fear and see that world as a dangerous and scary place, and we need to be careful and we need to protect ourselves. Or we can choose to raise our vibrations together in expanding and opening our hearts. I hope this is insightful for you. You're free to choose whichever story you create. That's the beauty of it. And all of those stories are beautiful. All of those stories are what makes us human in all of our light and shadows and all of it. All of it. So I think that's it, everyone. Really sit with yourself today and maybe observe the stories you create in your daily life. It can be big things like we just did about the world, and it can be a little story about you being stuck in traffic. Have fun. I'm all about having fun. Have fun really exploring yourselves there and be a beautiful, responsible creator. All right, everyone, I see you next time.